BBC News, I'm John Shea. Rebels in Ethiopia have called for international powers to enforce an immediate ceasefire in the northern region of Tigray. They said they would stop fighting if government forces were compelled to negotiate for peace. Our Africa regional editor, Mary Harper, reports.
With stocks of food and medicine dwindling, humanitarian workers being killed while trying to deliver aid, and constant aerial and artillery bombardment, it's difficult to see a way out for the Tigrayans. Diplomats are warning that Ethiopian and Eritrean troops could soon force their way into Tigray's towns, which they say could result in a civilian bloodbath. So deep is the hatred between the two sides, it seems almost inevitable that those who lose will be punished ruthlessly.
Sources inside Evin prison in Tehran have said that shots were fired and tear gas was used during the fire that broke out on Saturday night. Iranian officials have said that 4 detainees were killed inhaling smoke and more than 60 others were injured. The authorities say the fire was caused by a riot in a workshop as Iran continues to be rocked by anti-government protests. Anousheh Ashuri, who spent nearly 5 years in Evin on spying charges, told the BBC that he's been in touch with some inmates' relatives.
I'm having contacts from a few families who are expressing their worries about their husbands in there. This morning, I received a message saying that one of the elderly ones in our wing was actually affected by the tear gas, because when the tear gas lands in the yard, the smoke gets into the rooms, and it is very difficult to get rid of that if it happens.
In Britain, 3 governing Conservative Party MPs have become the first to call publicly for the Prime Minister, Liz Truss, to resign just weeks into her premiership. Ms Truss has faced criticism after being made to reverse her flagship tax policy, which had caused market turmoil and led to the ousting of her finance minister. Ms Truss has said she will stay the course but do things differently in the future. One of the MPs, Crispin Blunt, told the Andrew Neil show on Channel 4 television that he didn't think she could survive.
I think the game's up, and it's now a question as to how the succession is managed. If there is such a weight of opinion in the parliamentary party that we have to have a change, then it will be affected. Exactly how it's done and exactly under what mechanism, but it will happen.
President Biden's national security advisor has said he will act methodically in re-evaluating the relationship with Saudi Arabia, but his options include changes to US security assistance to the leading oil producer. Jake Sullivan said Mr Biden had no plans to meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at next month's G20 summit. World News from the BBC. The Lebanese army has accused Israeli naval vessels of violating the country's territorial waters, days after the countries agreed to settle a long-running maritime dispute. It said Israeli gunboats encroached several hundred metres inside Lebanese waters 4 times on Saturday. The Israelis have denied the accusation. Cuba's state-owned electricity company says 1/3 of the country will again experience power cuts this evening as part of an ongoing energy crisis. Millions of people are being affected across the country, including in the capital, Havana. Leonardo Rocha reports.
For months, the authorities have been forced to disconnect power for hours at a time, alternating between different regions. There were similar measures on Saturday. Cuba's communist government says the crisis has been caused by a surge in the price of crude oil used to fuel the country's power stations following the invasion of Ukraine. The situation has worsened since the island was hit by Hurricane Ian last month. Cuba was swept by rare anti-government protests. People banged pots and pans at night to demand government action to end the energy crisis.
The 2 candidates in Brazil's presidential election runoff will come face-to-face in a televised debate shortly as campaigning becomes increasingly fractious. The former left-wing leader Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said he was prepared to strike back if provoked by President Jair Bolsonaro, who's seeking re-election. In the past few days, Lula has accused Mr Bolsonaro of engaging in paedophilia and cannibalism, while both men have traded allegations of corruption. The Haitian singer Mika Ben has died of a suspected heart attack while performing in Paris. Footage from the concert on Saturday night shows the 41-year-old turning and starting to make his way backstage before collapsing. He was attended by the emergency services but couldn't be revived. The Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry said his death was a major loss to music. BBC News.